Friends, in just a moment, we'll begin the service for Mrs. Gwen Packard. Just another gentle reminder, if anybody has a cell phone, please make sure to turn it off. Officiating our service here is Rabbi Lisa Green and Cantor David Goldstein.
It is ever so fitting that as we mourn Gwen's death and remember her in life, that we gather in this sanctuary. For this was her synagogue most of her life. And this room was where she studied Torah and prayed and gathered in community for I don't know how many Shabbatot, how many Sabbaths. I certainly have very powerful memories of Torah conversations that just at the moment someone was going over here, or dare I say, being a little contentious, Gwen would offer a wise, calm, insightful word. And as so many of us know, Gwen loved music, sang with Shir Hadassah with Cantor Goldstein, and among the pieces she loved was Avinu Malkeinu. And while it's not Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Cantor Goldstein will open our service with those words as we reflect on the music that Gwen loved really until her last days, and actually tried to sing when I sang with her at her hospital bed with a very weak voice. Would join in.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Gamol aleinu. Ve'al olaleinu v'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, kale dever v'cherev v'ra'av me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, kale kol tsar umastin me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, kotveinu בספר חיים טובים. אבינו מלכנו, חדש עלינו, חדש עלינו, שנה טובה. אבינו מלכנו, אבינו מלכנו, קדש עלינו שנה טובה. אבינו מלכנו, שמע קולנו, שמע קולנו, שמע קולנו.
Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, our Father, our Ruler, asks for God's compassion on us as we stand before God with humility. It was a few weeks ago that Gwen was asking questions about God with a weakened voice in a hospital room. We pray that God is with her. We praise you this day, O God, as we think of those whose death has devastated our lives. We feel the bonds that tied us together, the love that we shared, and the memories that remain with us still. We thank you for the gift of their lives. What are we, O God, that you should care for us? Our days are like a fleeting shadow, a wistful sigh, the whisper of the wind. So teach us to treasure each day of our life as a precious gift from our Creator, to love our God, to do justly, to perform acts of love and kindness, and to walk with humility with the Creator. And teach us to treasure those whom we love today and every day. As we gather with grief and sadness, let us gather with gratitude for Gwen, for her life, for the innumerable acts of kindness, and let us carry on her legacy with us, with our deeds and words. Death will come, its hand will not be stayed even an instant, nor can we enter into judgment with it. Our question why will go unanswered. But this does not mean that we are helpless in the face of death. We can and we do rob death of ultimate victory by living life as long as it is ours to live. To ask of death that it never come is futile. But it is not futility to pray that when death does come for us, it may take us from a world, one corner of which is a little better, because we were there. When we are dead and people weep for us and grieve, let it be because we touched their lives with beauty and simplicity. Let it not be said that life was good to us, but rather that we were good to life. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells of our kinship with the Creator in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. The psalmist wrote, "O God, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world. From eternity to eternity you are God. You return us to dust. You decree, return you mortals, for in your sight 1,000 years are as yesterday when it has passed, as a watch in the night. You engulf us in sleep. We are like grass that renews itself. At daybreak it flourishes anew. At dusk it withers and dries up. The span of our life is 80 years and 10, or given strength 80 years. But the best of those years have trouble and sorrow. They pass by speedily, and we are in darkness. Teach us, therefore, to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, to make our days count, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Turn to us, O God, show mercy to your servants, satisfy us at daybreak with your steadfast love, that we may sing for joy all our days. Let your deeds be seen by your servants, your glory by their children. May your favor, O God, be upon us. Establish the work of our hands. Establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. We gather this morning with love and remembrance. As we do, we recall the work of Gwen Packard's hands, creating you, her family, every book she touched, and how many in the library, choosing and handing and encouraging how many readers. The work of our hands with Hadassah, with music, with so much.
Adonai roi lo echsar, binotesh yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yinachaleni, nafshi eshovev, yancheni b'mahaglet tzedek, leman shmo, גם כי אלך בקצון מוות, לא אירא רע, כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך, עמי ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב, וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי. וישבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
Please join with me as we follow the chanting of the 23rd Psalm, saying the words together in English. They're in the pamphlet you have received on entering the sanctuary. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and there is strength in faith. With Job we said, Adonai Natan, God, you gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in Gwen's life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai Lakach, God, you've taken away. We pray for strength, and we say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach, blessed be God's name forever and ever. We come to this time and place with our memories, with our thoughts, and with our prayers. I invite you to take a few moments for silent prayer and reflection.
meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord. O Lord, my rock and strength, and my Redeemer. O Lord, my rock and strength, and my Redeemer.
Each of us is given a number of days and years to fill as we see fit. How we fill that time, what we build and create. Our hopes, dreams, and passions. These become others' treasured memories after our life is drawn to a close. So as we turn to reflect on the special story that was Gwen's life, I invite Don and then Warren to share memories.
Thank you for being here today to help me and my family say goodbye to my dearest wife, Gwen, who fought the good fight for all of her 83 years and won until she finally succumbed to the ravages of pneumonia and cancer and other internal organ failures. When Gwen was born in November of 1939, she was born with a hole in her heart. As a result, life expectancy was not very favorable. Her mother and father, Beatrice and William Kastel, worked hard to provide a normal life for Gwen. At a young age, her father often carried her upstairs, and the mother made other sacrifices on her behalf. But Gwen persisted in every way she could, even though her physical condition prevented her from playing sports with the other boys and girls. She went through the early school years in Chicago when the family lived on Mozart. When the family moved to the North Shore, Gwen completed her elementary and middle school in Glencoe. Afterwards, she attended New Trier East High School in Winnetka. At New Trier, she worked on the school newspaper and was a cast member and sang in the annual musicals. At New Trier, Gwen generated a love for music, books, and a determination to succeed at everything she undertook. She learned to play the piano and play the viola, which came in handy when she played in several community orchestras, the last one being the Community Symphony of the Music Institute of Chicago. After graduation from New Trier East, Gwen attended Miami of Ohio for 2 years. And I know that she was a straight-A student in her freshman year. In fact, Gwen was always a good student. She played in the school orchestra and joined a sorority and was admitted to the music honorary. At the end of her second year, she decided to live with her parents in Evanston and attend Northwestern University. She made the transfer and decided to become a teacher. But after her student teaching, she was advised to seek another major because they thought the physical requirements were too much for her. She selected music education and eventually graduated from Northwestern with a BS, a Bachelor of Science, in Education in 1961. I first met Gwen when I was serving my final year and a half as a Navy supply officer at the Great Lakes Naval Station. The Pinsoff family, great longtime members of this congregation. The Pinsoff family of Winnetka planned a social event at their home in the summer of 1959, and I and other young officers were invited to attend, along with some college women, home for the summer. I did not talk with Gwen until it was almost time to leave the social event. She approached me and said that some of the other young women said that I did a lot of talking about Bowling Green State University, which is where I did my undergraduate work. I later went to the University of Michigan for graduate studies. Miami and Bowling Green were big rivals in varsity sports, and that was about it. Afterwards, as I thought about Gwen, I decided I would ask her out for a date. I did not have her telephone number, but I remembered that she worked at Marshall Fields in Evanston, and before heading back to school. She worked in housewares for $1.05 an hour. And after some back and forth, I talked to her and we made a date. We went to Ravinia on our first date, and we also went into Chicago often to attend the Chicago Symphony concerts at Orchestra Hall. One thing led to another, and in early 1960, we became engaged. Gwen's parents were members of North Shore Congregation, Israel. And we were married on July 9th, 1960, by Rabbi Edgar Siskin at the 840 Vernon Avenue Synagogue. We joined the North Shore Congregation, Israel, and from the beginning we began participating in temple activities. We were presidents of the Young Couples Group, where we met a lot of good friends. Gwen was on the education board, and as a volunteer, she worked with the synagogue's Feed the Homeless program. She also sang in the choir during synagogue services. Gwen did not let her age stop her from becoming bat mitzvah. She studied with Meyer Schisler, among others, and she and some other adult women completed their studies and learned to chant from the Torah. It was a proud moment, one of many. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment across the street from Dyke Stadium, the football stadium in Evanston. Later, they underwent a name change to Ryan Field. Within 2 years, we moved to a townhouse in Evanston on the corner of Prospect Avenue and Central Street. At Northwestern, Gwen received some new information from Dr. William McKeever, and who was the physician for many of the students. He knew about Gwen's condition and told her about C. Walton Lilly, who was a pioneer in helping to develop open heart surgery. And Dr. McKeever advised Gwen to go to Minneapolis and be treated for the hole in her heart. That year was 1964. And Dr. Lilly performed the surgery and corrected her problem. In 1965, our daughter Susan was born, and in 1967, our son Warren was born. And he fell. And Gwen was always proud of her 2 children and the 4 grandchildren, Tyler, Justin, Carson, and Elsa. She was proud of them. And I want to point out that Patricia Chang, Dr. Patricia Chang, was Warren's wife and mother to the grandchildren, who was a wonderful person that we are very proud of also. When our 2 children, Susan and Warren, reached an age where they could take care of themselves, Gwen attended Rosary College in River Forest and earned the degree of Master of Library Science. Early on, Gwen worked for Commerce Clearinghouse as a proofreader of giant law books. After gaining the master's degree in library science, she went to work at the Glencoe Public Library and was the head of the children's department for 14 years. In the ensuing years, it gave Gwen great pleasure to see some of the children she helped with reading skills now grown up and relating to her along with their parents. While all of this was happening, Gwen, who was a member of Hadassah for over 50 years, stayed involved in the North Shore chapter, it's now a region, of Hadassah, and undertook numerous responsibilities, which included president of the business and professional group, until she was selected to be president of the entire 4,000-member organization, a position she served from 1999 to 2001. The North Shore chapter and all the chapters of Hadassah took as their primary responsibility fundraising for 2 major hospitals in Israel. These Hadassah hospitals not only served Israeli citizens, but they served Palestinians and Arabs as well. They treated everyone who walked through their doors. Gwen has been to Israel at least 5 times, and I was with her on 4 of those occasions. Among other things, we saw the advances the country was making in science and technology, and she and the will to be proud of the homeland that they created from the desert. Gwen also started to do some serious writing, and between 1993 and 1997, she had 3 nonfiction books directed at teens and young adults published by Rosen Publishing in New York as part of their Coping series. The books were listed on reading lists for teens. One was the New York Public Library, quote, best books for the teenage reader, end quote, as well as for social workers and healthcare workers who serve teenagers. I believe Rabbi Bronstein was one of the people that Gwen interviewed along the way with for this book, which was Coping in an Interfaith Family, along with Rabbi Harold Kudan. It was a wonderful book. Among the many writing groups that Gwen belonged to was the Children's Reading Roundtable of Chicago and the Off-Campus Writers Workshop. And you guessed it, Gwen served as president for several years of this group. When Gwen joined the North Shore Senior Center, one of the groups she joined was the Share the Warmth, which made blankets for the Linus Project. Linus, you recall, had a blanket in the Peanuts series in this project. And they gave these blankets to children who were in hospitals. Both before and after I retired from private industry, Gwen and I did a lot of traveling, mostly in Europe and England, and also in the States, but primarily on the East Coast to learn more about our early American history. When traveling in Greece, Gwen was determined to climb the steps of the Acropolis and see the Parthenon. She did it. And while not as strenuous, she made it to the high fortress of Masada, which was held for years by a small group of Jewish people before the Romans prevailed. In closing, it can be said that Gwen had a love for family, books, music, and a determination that made her excel and succeed at what she wanted from life. As I said when I started, Gwen fought the good fight and won. She fought adversity until she couldn't any longer. As the song goes, she did it her way. She never complained. She was the love of my life, and I believe she had a wonderful life. And I was lucky to be part of her life. She will be missed, but my memories and those of my family will last forever. Thank you for listening.
My mom's memory is indeed a blessing. My dad just went through a chronology of my mom's life and all she did. She was admitted to the hospital on November 5th of this past year. She was struggling with a heart condition. She was struggling with cancer, and she had contracted pneumonia. But she was always optimistic. Her perseverance was really, really admirable. I flew out a week after she was admitted to the hospital, and I was talking to the doctor. We were in her room. We were talking over the bed. My mom wasn't very responsive. And we're talking about some very serious topics about what we should do in case some significant medical event took place. And we're tossing it around, and my mom opens an eye, and she says, "I'm not going anywhere." I knew then she wasn't going anywhere. A few days later, she was admitted to the ICU. Her condition had worsened. And she pulled me over. She goes, "I want to drink champagne on New Year's Day." And this was like November 18th. Her birthday was going to be November 21st, and we were thinking, New Year's Day, that's great, but let's just make it to your birthday. Let's do one thing at a time, young lady. And this was her fight. She had a lot of things going on, but she was fighting. Hard to read when you're cheering up here. But she got weaker. Her voice got weaker. But every now and then, she managed to make a statement that was so pivotal. And over the course of these last 4 weeks, she made 4 statements that really set the tone for her life and who she was. Number 1, she said in her voice, "I want to see Rabbi Green." That was no surprise. She had spent a lot of time with Rabbi Green. But it reflected her commitment to her faith. And I was curious, no surprise she wanted Rabbi Green, but why? Why did you want to talk to Rabbi Green? I was assuming something deep and metaphysical and introspective, and it was. She wanted to talk about some rich, deep subject involving Judaism and life and death and passing. And Rabbi Green came by and they had this conversation. And I wasn't privy to the specifics. That's not important. But it really reflects what my mom was thinking in these last few days. Thinking deeply, always thinking to that next level. And to Rabbi Green, to North Shore, to the community, the Jewish community, Cantor Goldstein, thank you. Thank you. My mom gained a lot and contributed a lot to this community. A few weeks later, after she had actually gotten out of the ICU, gotten out of the hospital, she unfortunately was readmitted to the emergency room. And she was unfortunately getting weaker. And we were in the emergency room as she was transitioning from a skilled nursing facility back to the hospital. And again, she pulled me over. She said, "I want to go somewhere." I'm like, we're in the ER right now. It's not time to think about going anywhere. She said, "I want to go somewhere." I said, "Where do you want to go?" She said, "I want to go home." She really wanted to go home. Home was where she was a mom and a mentor and a role model. Let's unpack that. Go in reverse order. As a role model, she led by example. We've heard about her capabilities. She was into music. She played the piano. She played the viola. She sang. She had perfect pitch. She passed that along to my sister, my son Carson. an amazing capability. She was into musicals and theater. She brought my sister and me and my dad to musicals all the time. She was crafty. She did arts and crafts and needlepoint and crochet and quilts. She was into exotic foods. She was always experimenting or always exploring. And we saw this. We saw this. My sister and I, and we followed. And I mean, even to this day, or a few days ago, she was playing bridge up to the end of October. She was playing bridge, duplicate bridge with my dad every week. And she was also the technophile of the house. Something broke. Mom would fix it. As a mentor, she led from behind. She taught us to read and love books, to love music, to be crafty, to be informed. We watched the news all the time together. And she let us be ourselves. I ended up with musical tastes that completely conflicted with my mom's, and she was okay with that. My sister and I, we ended up being runners. That would not characterize my mom. But she was appreciative of that. She was proud. As a mom, she led with patience. And I have to speak for myself here. I think my sister didn't push the envelope quite so much. Maybe she did. Swore me to secrecy. I'm still holding the secrets if they're there. But I was incredibly accident prone. And somehow my mom put up with all that. I cracked my head open in second grade and ran and knocked on the door. She was taking a shower. I said, I hurt myself. My mom said, I'm taking a shower. I ran in, I opened the door. I said, no, I really hurt myself. And there's like blood streaming down my face. She goes, you hurt yourself. She took care of me. In third grade, I get hit by a car. I liked it so much, 6 months later, I got hit by a car again. She put up with that. My dad did too, by the way. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like to take things apart. I like to break things. They put up with that. Oh, I played the drums. I can't imagine how she put up with that. It's loud. But my mom, for all her patience, she was also a human being. And she had just the most fantastic foibles. My mom is the slowest eater on the planet. And I'm the slowest eater on the planet. I think I followed suit. And she served us food portions that were perfect when we were in second and fourth grade and never changed those portions. In fact, there was one time she was with my son Justin and cooked him some dinner, and she made him a portion that was the same as I had in second grade. I think he was 6'1", 180 pounds at that point in time. When it came to medicine, there was only one color for medicine, and that was purple. So anything that happened to us, we had a cough, purple medicine. Felt feverish, purple medicine. Injured our foot, purple medicine. Maybe why I married a doctor. She was good at multitasking. She would go grocery shopping and leave us in the car. I, at one point, figured out how to move the car from park to reverse, and the car rolled backwards. The car was in a different spot when she came back. I felt bad. Nobody was hurt. And my mom was also, God bless her, chronically late. And I think she was always preparing for great things to happen, so she wanted to look her best, as she did. So just a week ago, my mom pulled me over. Again, she was trying to say something, and I couldn't understand her. So I brought over a piece of paper and handed her a pen. I said, okay, can you write this? And she tried to write something, but her hand was not steady. And so I said, hang on a second. I brought over my computer. I held it in front of her so she could peck something out. And she pecked out the word legal. I'm like, oh, where's this going? And then she typed out paper, legal paper. And I still didn't know where this was going. So you want a big piece of paper that lawyers write on. And then finally, she typed out, admit children. And I figured it out, and she nodded her head. She wanted to write a legal document that allowed the hospital to admit children so she could see children. She wanted to see kids. And that was so fitting. She was so dedicated to children. And there's that saying, each one teach one. If we all taught one person, we could carry traditions forward, we could carry knowledge forward, we could carry education forward. But I've changed this. It's each Gwen teach 10. 10,000. As the head librarian at Glencoe Public Library, she taught thousands of kids to read, to enjoy reading, to enjoy learning. And then, as my dad pointed out, each Gwen teach 10 million with the books that she wrote for teens, about stress, about interfaith marriages, about a parent returning to work. Each of these things had an impact on her life, and she wanted to express it, so she wrote about it. She wanted to give back. She wanted to see kids. And the last day I saw her, not very long ago, Mom again was trying to say something. So I smartened up and I just brought over the computer. And I thought, in her decline, this must be really important. This is going to be truly a statement for us to hang our hat on, for her life message. And she typed out, I want to watch football. Great. So to the very end, what she was really saying is, I want to be inclusive. I want family here. My dad was here, I was here, my sister. And she wanted to turn on football because she knew we'd enjoyed it. I'm not sure what we were watching, but we turned on football. But football is also the perfect metaphor for her strength and for who she was, her character. She's a warrior, a winner. She's a survivor, and she's done so much. And if she had only survived Tetralogy of Fallek, that would have been enough. Dianu. And if she had only married a guy from Bowling Green in Michigan, Dianu. If she had only survived open heart surgery, Dianu. And if she only had 2 children, Dianu. If she only survived my drumming, Dianu. If she had only received a master's degree in library science, Dianu. If she had only become the head librarian in Glencoe, Dianu. If she had only become the head of North Shore Hadassah, Dianu. And if she had only written 3 books for teens in need, Dianu. If she had only sewn quilts for kids in need, Dianu. If she had only survived her thyroid cancer, Dianu. Her heart valve replacements, Dianu. Her eye cancer, Dianu. Her neck cancer, Dianu. If she had only made it to her 83rd birthday, Dianu. All right, that's 15. She made it more than a month past her 83rd birthday. She was a strong and determined fighter. I looked forward to seeing her every day in the hospital, and to the very end, she was beautiful. My everlasting memory of my mom is beauty. And I thank you, Mom, for my life. I thank Gwen for what she gave to everybody's life. And may her memory be a blessing.
We gather, indeed, with that sentiment of Dayenu. It would have been enough. Warren, as you led us in that refrain, I had a vision, Don and Warren and Susan and all of you, of Gwen standing in Rebecca K. Crown Hall at our how many women's seders, when the women of our adult choir, Cherished, would lead us in music for many, many years. Indeed, it is so fitting that we are here in this sanctuary. Okay, Don, you were married down the street, but you were married at NSCI. Susan, Warren, you were confirmed at NSCI. Warren, you were bar mitzvah, and Mom was bat mitzvah. And I learned on Monday that she even made her own talit for her bat mitzvah. She sought out our teacher, Lynn Friend, who was making them with the 13-year-olds, and said, I want to do that. No surprise. We gather with love and remembrance and gratitude for Gwen's life, for her contributions to this congregation as a worshiper, as a musician, as a friend to many. Among the memories I have of her escorting her cousin Lily to services, particularly to Yizger when Lily could no longer get here by herself, and Gwen was determined to get her here. Indeed, we recall the journey of her life that we heard, such exquisite reflection, that Chicago Jewish journey from Rogers Park on north, growing up with her parents, her brothers, Howard and Gary, her journey of education, a journey of family, the family, Don, that you and she built. Thank goodness you were at that party and you tracked her down, even though, rumor has it, you didn't know her last name. That was pretty good. A marriage of 62 years, 2 fabulous children, 4 incredible grandchildren. I loved asking your grandmother about you. Her face would light up, and she would recall, say what you were doing. Susan, you loved your adventures with your mother. She'd take the train down, and whether it was good eating or culture, or she had to take the train, and you'd have fun, and she'd come up with new ideas each day. Your grandmother and grandfather loved visiting you all. They would come out to California. And we recall Gwen's journey of education, her own education, and how she inspired others and taught others and gave others the tools to take on their own learning. A journey of music, a journey of community through her bringing together community in the library, her leadership in Hadassah, her role within our synagogue. The lessons of Gwen's life are myriad. Connection to family, indeed leading by example, being kind and being present, reaching out and listening, and indeed being part of your community. It's a Jewish teaching that says, Al tifrosh min hatzibur, do not separate yourself from the community. As we recall the legacy and memories of Gwen Packard's life, we see her as an integral part of her family and her community, so many of them. Jewish tradition teaches that we best honor our loved ones when we bring the deeds and words of their lives into our own. May we do just that. May we bring the words and deeds of Gwen Packard's life into our own, and may we do so explicitly. I do this because Gwen, Mom, Grandma, did this, or told me to do this, or taught me to do this. Name her. Share those memories, those teachings with others. As we do, we assure that her memory will be for a blessing. Zechrona levracha. May Gwen's memory be for a blessing. If you are able to rise, please do. Regardless, we all rise in spirit as Cantor Goldstein will chant El Malei Rachamim.
Il Malei Rachamim Shochein ban romim Onetzim nechanechona Onetzim nechanechona Tachat kanafei Ashchina במעלות קדושים טהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת יקירנו שלחה לעולמה בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה אנא ברחמים אסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור חיים את נשמתה אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Gwen, our dear one who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Amen. Please be seated.
Friends, this concludes our service here in the chapel. Interment will take place immediately at the family plots at Shalom Memorial Park. (12:15). If anybody wants to join us at the cemetery, we're not going to have a formal procession. Rather, we're going to ask you to drive as safely as possible. You can either take Lake Hook or Dundee, but we're going to meet up at the gravesite at 12:15. Upon return from the cemetery, the family will be sitting Shiva at the Packard residence until 9 p.m. Memorial contributions to Hadassah North Shore region or the North Shore Congregation Israel. That information, as well as the location of the Shiva and the hours, is on the service folder you received on the way in. If you did not receive one, it is available on the way out. And for those of us who are on the live stream, that information is available on our website. This time I would ask those individuals who have been honored to serve as pallbearers to please rise and stand next to Gwen's casket. I invite everyone else to please rise as we escort the casket, the family, the rabbi, and the cantor from the chapel.